Hey there, it's Jason from Codemanship with a short public information video. My top 5 mistakes that I see developers making when they're learning to use stubs and mocks. Before we get into it, please like and subscribe if you're enjoying these videos and ring the bell for notifications. So I train and coach developers in unit testing and test-driven development, and naturally the subject of stubbing and mocking comes up. And so I work with a lot of developers who are new to using stubs and mocks. And this is my list of the top 5 most common mistakes I see developers making when they're starting out with stubbing and mocking. At number 5, instantiating mocks and stubs inside the code under test. So in this example here, we need a mock credit card, but we're actually creating the mock inside the method that we're testing, which means it can only ever be a mock. So there will never ever be any real credit card processing. At number 4, mocking the class under test. I see this on a regular basis where people create a mock of the thing that they're actually supposed to be testing. And then you kind of wonder, well, what is it you're actually testing? Are you testing the mocking framework? Because there's no implementation there. It's all pretend. At number 3, invoking mocked methods inside the test. So I see this quite a lot, where developers, they set up, for example, a mock credit card for credit card payment processing, and then they actually invoke the method that they're supposed to be checking is being invoked inside the test code itself. Now, many of these mistakes stem from the same core misunderstanding, and we'll get onto that. But in this particular example, we're actually invoking the method creditcard.charge inside the test, whereas what we're supposed to be testing is that cd.buy invokes creditcard.charge. That's the whole purpose of this test, to test that the thing that the class that we're testing actually invokes the method on that dependency. Okay, at number 2, passing data that stubs should be providing directly into the class that we're testing. In this example, we need to know whether or not the credit card payment is accepted or rejected, but rather than create a stub credit card and pass that into the compact disk for us to use to get that information, instead what we do is we just pass the information indirectly. The question then comes, where does this information come from? It's not ours. We're not actually processing the payments. It's coming from an external system. So we don't have this data. We have to find out. We need an interface that we can use for processing credit card payments that will tell us whether or not the payment has been accepted or rejected. And finally, at number 1, this is one I see a lot. Every time we do it, someone does this. Testing stubs, testing the stubs themselves. Now, the whole point is that stubs are supposed to be part of the test code. They're not production code. We're not supposed to have tests for them. We shouldn't need tests for stubs. They should be dumb, basically. They should return whatever data we tell them to return for the purposes of our test. But very often I see developers saying, well, we're going to need a credit card stub, so we should probably write a test for that. No, you should write a test that uses a credit card stub, but is actually testing the real thing, the thing that uses it. The whole purpose of stubs and mocks is to allow us to pretend, basically, to have pretend dependencies. And this is the part that I think many people understand. Many developers misunderstand this. That stubs and mocks are pretending to be dependencies of the thing that we're testing. They're pretending to, for example, process credit card payments. And that means that those dependencies need to be injected, provided from the outside, so that we can swap the implementations, so we can swap a credit card stub with something that really does actually process the payments. So dependency injection is the key here, and it's the thing that's missing from all of these examples. And I believe it is at the core of this fundamental misunderstanding about stubbing and mocking, and about software design, particularly object-oriented design in particular. So let's take a look at how this could have been done properly. So let's look at 2 examples. Well, our first example there is using a stub credit card. So we've got an anonymous inner class there that implements the credit card interface, and it just returns whatever response we need for this particular test. Notice that it's passed into the constructor of compact disk so that compact disk can use it. Credit card is a dependency of compact disk that we are pretending, basically, with a stub. And dependencies should be passed in using dependency injection so that we can swap the implementations of those dependencies very easily, not just for the purposes of testing, but let's say we wanted to use a different payment provider, a different credit card payment processor. We could do that without having to make any changes to compact discs. So dependency injection is the secret sauce, and it's usually what developers haven't understood and that they don't realize they need to do. In the second example, we've got a mock credit card class, you'll see there, and we are verifying that the charge method is called with the right amount of money. That's the price of the compact disc multiplied by the quantity that we're buying. Again, notice that that mock credit card has to be passed in, dependency injection, passed into the compact disc so compact disc can use it. It's another dependency of compact disc that we are faking. Well, actually, it's the same dependency, but with a different purpose in the test. So don't make these mistakes with stubs and mocks. If you're new to them, remember these are test code. Mocks and stubs are part of the test code. You don't test them, you don't use them in the test. They are to be used by the class that you are testing. They are a dependency of the class that you are testing. And as dependencies, they need to be passed into that class as constructor parameters or as method parameters so that it can use them. That's good object-oriented design, basically. Okay, there you go. There's my top 5 most common mistakes that developers make when they're new to stubs and mocks. Hopefully when you're stubbing and mocking, you don't make these mistakes. If this has been useful, then like I said, like and subscribe, ring the bell for notifications. There'll be more like this. Till the next time, take care.